people, my good people. Hello, world. I'd like to welcome y'all back to the show that's hot with your boy, Rob Scott. This is Robs2Cents, baby, man. What's going on, everybody? Hope everybody good. Hope everybody is great, man. Had the NFL wild card, first round of the playoffs this weekend. Got a lot to get into. But before I get started on anything, I got to remember the reason for the season. And even though we're in the brand new day on a cold Tuesday, yesterday we celebrated this man. We celebrated the legendary, iconic Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And you know, all praises to the Creator for that man, and all praises to the Creator for my foundation. Being a young black male raised in the city of Chicago, I was fortunate enough to be raised and be taught in a private school system that was dedicated to our people. Shout out to Emmanuel Christian School, the school that gave me my foundation. I was there from preschool to eighth grade, which got me into a religious background and also learning the history, at least the way we were taught about our people. So, we had to write reports on, iconic figures in the African American community, even though I'm a black American, not saying, I think everybody, if you're going to look at it that way, everybody's an African American, but that's a different conversation for a different time because, that's where we all originate from. But, to be able to learn about these iconic black people who, sacrificed pretty much their lives to the message of equality and, however they spit that message, whether it was through any means necessary or through nonviolence or through education, through science, through law enforcement, through through the judicial system. We got to learn about some iconic black figures at the school I was, taught from, and had some great people come from this school as well. Shout out to my boy Hot Rod, Rodney Washington, who you guys are hearing now on the airways of 107.5 WGCI. Shout out to my boy D Brooks Exclusive. You know what I'm saying? You guys are here his beats and see his movements with corporate in Chicago and other various Chicago artists like G Herbo, Dirt. I mean, this guy has worked with everybody. We've got some. Shout out to Stephanie Coleman, who's an alderman in this city. So we have produced some great people. Shout out to Rob Scott, who's the host of Robs2Cents, the next hottest thing in sports. So we produced iconic people from that school as well. So we got to learn about people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his sacrifice, him sacrificing his life for us. And we never want to forget that. You know what I'm saying? We never want to forget, him staring in the face of hatred, him living in fear, not just for himself, but for his family, for people he was associated with, for the message he was spreading. So we always got to give love to Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And he represents to us as a people, and I'm just thankful that we got a chance to learn about this man in history, and we should be thankful for his contributions to history. And I feel like these games that were played on his day, you know what I'm saying, they should be dedicated to him because you wouldn't see black and white men and other men of other ethnicities and races on the field or on the court together had it not been for people like Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So shout out to him. Happy birthday to him. May he continue to rest peacefully. And hopefully, we continue to fight our way to get to the mountaintop that he foresaw and that we all are sitting at the table of equality.
But we had a lot of games, you know what I'm saying, to keep the show going. As I mentioned, NFL wild card race. We got some interesting things going on in the NBA now, happening right now, and we gonna get into all of that, man. So you guys sit back, relax. Had you missed the games, had you not paid attention to anything, that's what I'm here for. Need y'all to tune in to the hottest sports conversation in the nation, man. Let's get right into it. Excuse me, as you guys know, had the NFC wild or NFL wild card playoff round happen this past weekend, and boy, oh boy, did we see some things that shocked us? Did we see some things that we foresaw? You're gonna see what Robs2Cents was actually at work, and now we have some anticipation for the divisional round happening next week, man. We gonna go off into what happened on Saturday's night games. As you guys know, the NFL hosted games on Saturday, Sunday, and of course on Martin Luther King Jr. Day on Monday. And man, these playoff games was cracking. We got to talk about the first game that happened. We saw the Houston Texans go against the Cleveland Browns, and they got down on the Cleveland Browns. The Texans showed the hell up, whooped the Browns' ass 45-14. No contest. Now, it shocked me. Even though I call myself Robs2Cents, I will admit when I was wrong. And I was wrong about the Cleveland Browns. Not to say I was wrong about them being one of the hotter teams in the NFL, but I was definitely wrong about the Texans and how they would approach this game, and how they would go against the Cleveland Browns. As I mentioned, final score 44-14. Joe Flacco, who has been just causing a ruckus up in the media lately with this play and how he had essentially come off the couch. Pause. Now he had got off the couch to come to the NFL out of retirement once again and to try to get another Super Bowl ring. And it was looking like at one point in time it was going to be a magical ending. I mean, Joe Flacco had a game, but even in this game, he wasn't that bad. Even though he threw two interceptions, he was 34-46 for 307 yards. Had and even threw a touchdown. Kareem Hunt received a touchdown through the air and also rushed a touchdown on the ground. I mean, Cleveland just couldn't get this running game together. I mean, if you look at the tail of the tape and we look at the team stats, Cleveland only rushed for 56 yards. This is not a recipe for success for the Cleveland Browns, because this was a team who had made this bread and butter before Joe Flacco got there, based on the run game and based on the defense. Now, we understand that run game took a huge hit with Nick Chubb going down at the beginning of the year. But even at the same time, we saw Jerome Ford make a name for himself, and we saw Kareem Hunt getting signed back to the NFL and going to play with the Cleveland Browns. And that was a two-headed run game in itself. However, they just could not get the job done. And that Browns defense, on the other hand, looked confused because CJ Stroud, the rookie from Ohio State, who is now sweeping that rookie statement under the rug, this jinx that all Ohio State quarterbacks are not good in the NFL, he's putting that to bed because CJ Stroud will have himself a game 16 to 21 from the field, 274 yards, throwing for three touchdowns, no interceptions. CJ Stroud made a statement on Saturday that he is the real deal and that this Texans team is going to be a problem going forward. CJ Stroud, what more can you say about the kid? Making household names out of receivers out of Tank Dell, household names out of receivers like Nico Collins, household names out of guys, like Brevin Jordan, and bringing some clarity back to the game of guys like Devin Singletary and Dalton Schultz. Remember, Singletary was just playing with the Buffalo Bills, and even though the Bills are starting to use their run game now, they didn't use Singletary to his fullest capacity. Dalton Schultz wanted to make a name for himself after once before playing with the Cowboys, and now going to the Texans. After the Cowboys was looking at Jake Ferguson and I forgot the guy they got now, but these are these this is what C.J. Stroud was working with. Not to mention he got Noah Brown over there. Like there's some playmakers over there with the Texans, and I feel like under the tutelage and the leadership of Coach D'Amico Ryans, who has made a name for himself as a coach, and is showing the difference between somebody coaching by the numbers and somebody coaching with leadership. He has awakened the beast of this team, and the Houston Texans showed up and showed out. I'm telling you guys now, this was a great game for the Houston Texans, not for the Cleveland Browns, because I didn't expect them to come out there and start firing like that. Let's look at the stats. The Texas defense showed up. They held the Browns offense to only 14 points, two turnovers, including two picks, and causing havoc with four sacks all day. They did not let Joe Flacco rest. I'm telling you guys, I took the notes as I was watching. Coach D'Amico Ryans, man, you know, seeing how proud he was of his guys, seeing how the Houston Texas organization is fully behind this guy as the head coach, it was just amazing to see. And CJ Stroud, even though I was raised in the church, I don't consider myself a religious person. I'm definitely a spiritual person. Definitely a person that believes in higher power and understands that we don't do this on our own. And you can see that through CJ Proud. He had a certain humbleness about him. He was constantly thanking God, thanking, the man, the entity that made it possible for him, saying that he knows where his help comes from the Lord, and that was a beautiful thing to see how humble this guy was. And he had just a certain confidence about him that he said that he knew he was supposed to be in this position due to God, and I love that for CJ Stroud, man. As I mentioned, man, the Houston Texans are going to be a problem going forward. The Cleveland Browns, they're gonna get that quarterback situation figured out. Hopefully, you get Chubb back and he's able to come back and be at least 80% of what he was, and you got a good run game with him, Ford and Hunt. How you able to keep all three of those guys? We'll be able to see. But with the way they played in the playoffs, I'm pretty sure money shouldn't be a problem. They should be happy to be on the team. Let's get to the next game, man. Kansas City Chiefs defeated the Miami Dolphins 26-7. I expected this. The reason I expected this is because Miami all year has not proved to us that they can beat a team, that's a winning team. They've only had, I think they only had one victory all year against a winning team, maybe two if you want to count the Bills. But at that time, the Bills wasn't a winning team in the NFL. I did they beat the Bills? I know they put a whooping on the Broncos, but it was just horrible. What Miami showed up with. Kansas City came out to play. Pat Mahomes, 23 of 41 on the day, 262 yards, one touchdown, no interceptions. Had a balanced attack. Isaiah Pacheco, 24 yards, 24 carries for 89 yards, one touchdown. That's what you look for out of your playmaker. And then Rasheed Rice stepping up where it's some huge shoes to fill because you can see during the season that Kansas City was missing Tyreek Hill. Rasheed Rice said, "No hill, no problem. There's no hill that I cannot climb." 8 receptions for 130 yards and one touchdown. Crazy. And Travis Kelsey finally showed up. It appears that my APB worked. I put out an APB for Travis Kelsey. We wanted to know where was Travis Kelsey. Taylor Swift had taken up the news, showing up to the games. And Travis Kelsey said, "I guess I can disappear." And he wasn't there for the Chiefs, but in this game, he was. 7 receptions for 71 yards. Thank you, Kelsey, for showing back up for the Kansas City Chiefs because they're going to definitely need you going forward. We're going to talk about that a little later. But as far as the Dolphins, I've yet to see the Miami Dolphins play well against a team that's a winning team. I called it. I didn't think that the Miami Dolphins would beat the Kansas City Chiefs. Tua Tagovailoa, and everybody keep making this excuse that Tua has never played in weather that's lower than 46 degrees. Then you shouldn't play in the NFL. You have to realize that not every stadium has domes, and that you're gonna run into to situations in cities in which you got to deal with the cold, kind of like I had to do going to work today. It was 1 degrees outside with a feel like of -30. I had to get my ass on the train and the bus and get to the job site. That's what he had to deal with playing out there on the football field. This is what you sign up for. This is why you make the money you make. And Tua Tagovailoa again, no show, 20 and 39. Okay, it's not bad numbers. 199 yards, threw for under 200 yards, one touchdown and a turnover. And that run game couldn't get started at all. Between your two big guns and Raheem Mostert and Devin Achane, you had a combined 42 yards, 33 yards off 8 carries for Mostert, and 9 yards off 6 carries for Achane. That's not how you win a game. Tyreek Hill showed up and gave you a little magic, gave you a touchdown on the day, but you only scored 7 points. This high powered offense in the Miami Dolphins only scored 7 points against a Chiefs team that's been struggling all year. Now, mind you, this Chiefs team struggled because they had receivers that had the most drops in the NFL. Their receivers had a combined 44 drops on the year. Nobody dropped passes in this one. Now, Kadarius Toney had to sit out due to, I believe, a hip injury, but he might be back in the next game. But when you got my boy Rice out here, Rasheed Rice, being the playmaker that he is, this team looks like if Kansas City goes into the offseason, get themselves a couple more receivers, they're gonna be just fine. Because they've been winning based on their defense and their balanced attack. Pacheco was back for this game, and they had a great game. Pacheco giving Pat Mahomes the liberty to still be the playmaker that he is, running these play action passes. You don't know who's going to have the ball. Rasheed Rice being a great yak player, getting those yards after the catch. Kansas City said there's still life left in them, and it's going to be tough playing them in the next round. I hope Buffalo paid attention. Also, the defense for Kansas City got down, forced one turnover, got to two with 2 sacks on the day, held the Dolphins to 8% on third downs as they were 1 of 12 for third down conversions. When have you ever known Kansas City to be known for their defense? That's what you do when you're trying to win a championship. You have to recreate ways of how you win. The main objective is getting the W at the end of the day. No matter how we get the dub, we want the dub. We need the dub, and we're going to get the dub. And that's how Kansas City has been operating. Still have one of the best coaches today in the league, and Coach Andy Reid. Eric Bieniemy is no longer there, and we've seen the struggles with the offense under offensive coordinator Matt Nagy. But Kansas City finding a way to get it done. They won the division, and now they've won their first playoff game. And now they're going to experience something they've never experienced during the tenure of Patrick Mahomes as the starter for this franchise. They're going to experience how it feels to play on the road in a playoff game versus Buffalo. Can't wait to get into those predictions, man. Let's talk about the next game. Green Bay versus the Dallas Cowboys. This was another ass whooping. Oh, Green Bay came to play. And I don't know where Dallas left that game at. It was as if I was watching Space Jam and somebody had a football with all the talent of the Cowboys trapped inside. I don't know what alien came down and took the IQ that took the game of the Dallas Cowboys players, but it seemed like nobody showed up to play for Dallas except for Jake Ferguson. Let's talk about it. Dak Prescott, who was an MVP candidate this year for most of the season, his excellent play. When those lights switched on and they got real bright and it was time to really show what you can do, he disappeared. Dak Prescott had 60 pass attempts. Now, granted, he completed 41 passes out of those 60. Threw for over 400 yards, 3 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. But most of those yardage that Dak got on his stat line was in garbage time. This is why you have to watch the game. This is why you have to understand. If you look at the score of Green Bay versus Dallas, you would think that the game was close. Oh, they 48-32. Dallas fought hard. At the end of the first half, it was 27-1. I mean, to 10. I mean, to 7. Actually, Dallas had no chance in this game. Like they was getting dog walked. Green Bay called off the dogs in the fourth quarter. That's how bad this ass whooping was. And Dallas was able to score a little bit going into the fourth quarter, but the game wasn't even close. Tony Pollard had a touchdown but couldn't get really off. Only had 56 yards off 15 carries. CeeDee Lamb showed up, 9 receptions, 110 yards. Michael Gallup showed up, 6 receptions, 103 yards. And Jake Ferguson definitely showed up. 10 receptions, 93 yards, 3 touchdowns. You would assume with all this yardage that these receivers had that Dallas had a great game. But as I mentioned, game wasn't close. They really called off the dogs. At the end of 3 quarters, the score was 41-16. Green Bay said, do what you do. We've done enough to go on to the next round. But let me tell you about my boy Jordan Love. Let me show love to J Love. Because the man was 16-21, 272 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, no turnovers. The man looked better than Aaron Rodgers did. He's done something that Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre has not done. Not only did he lead his team in his first official start for the Packers to the playoffs, he's now won a playoff game in his first official start for the Packers in the playoffs. Jordan Love out there getting it done, making household names out of guys like Datavion Wicks, Luke Musgrave, Romeo Dobbs, the same guys that Aaron Rodgers couldn't play with. Jordan Love came out and got the job done. And I was nervous for Jordan Love at first because some of the games that I see him play in before he became the official starter, he didn't look good. He came out to play. He came out to make a statement. Not only did the Packers sneak into the playoffs, they coming to disrupt shit. As I mentioned, Romeo Dobbs, 6 receptions for 151 yards, 1 touchdown. Dontavion Wicks, 1 touchdown. Luke Musgrave, 1 touchdown. But the star of the game was Aaron Jones. I don't know what it is about Aaron Jones when he plays against the Cowboys. He had 21 carries for 118 yards, 3 touchdowns. Now we know he's from Texas. He went to UTEP, University of Texas at El Paso. But do you know that he's one of the best running backs ever, statistically, when up against the Cowboys? Let's talk about it. Who can forget the game in October of 2019 when he scored 4 touchdowns on the Cowboys? In his career against the Cowboys, Aaron Jones has 83 carries for 488 yards and 9 touchdowns. He's only played 4 games against the Cowboys. That is crazy. The other two people that's in front of him have played more games, like 10 and 12 games, and don't even have the stats that he has against the Dallas Cowboys. That shows you how much Aaron Jones loves to go back home, play in front of his family and friends, and show them why he made it to the NFL. He said it. I think he said his father had only seen him play one time, and he got a chance to see him against the Cowboys in this game on Sunday. You can't do nothing but feel happy for Aaron Jones. Packers defense also came to play. They held the Cowboys to 16 points through three quarters. That's why I said don't get confused with 48 to 32. The score was 41 to 16 at the end of the third. Game wasn't even close. Dak threw two back to back interceptions, one pick six included in those interceptions, reverting back to the old Dak Prescott. It's like every time you think the Cowboys are going up, they start cowboying. I hate to be one of those people that just hate the Cowboys because I really have no gripe with the Cowboys. They look good all year. But when you needed Michael Parsons to be the leader of this defense, he was quiet. I think they really missed Trayvon Diggs in that secondary because Gilmore wasn't supposed to be the main centerpiece of that secondary. It's supposed to be Trayvon Diggs and Gilmore. And they showed that he was definitely missed because Jordan Love did whatever he wanted to do. Shout out to the Packers, man. That's tough to say as a Chicago Bear fan, but I got to be professional. Let's get to another NFC North counterpart in the Detroit Lions as they defeated the Los Angeles Rams in a very close game, 24 to 23. This game had a lot of storyline in it. As you guys know, Matthew Stafford played for the Detroit Lions for many years, was one of the cornerstones of their offense. Him and Calvin Johnson, Megatron, even though Matthew Stafford didn't win anything in Detroit. They never made the playoffs. I don't think, and if they did make the playoffs, they certainly didn't win a playoff game. As you know, Detroit hadn't won a playoff game since 1992. So this was huge for Matthew Stafford to be coming back home to Detroit, now a former Super Bowl champion, and to kind of flex his muscle on we didn't have anything while I was here. But also on the other side of that spectrum, you have a Jared Goff who played a few years with the Los Angeles Rams, was able to make it out the mud and get his team to the Super Bowl, but they would lose to Tom Brady. And the Los Angeles Rams would decide to trade Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford. And immediately following that trade, Matthew Stafford takes this team, the Los Angeles Rams, to the Super Bowl, and they win. So now, as a confidence thing, Jared Goff is now looking like maybe I wasn't what the Rams needed. But sure enough, he was what the Lions needed. Because I've said all year I don't trust Jared Goff. And that's the reason why I never kind of gave Detroit the love I was supposed to give him. And he shut me the hell up. Jared Goff has showed up and he's played extremely well. Now, would I say he particularly outdueled Matthew Stafford in this game? He didn't. He did not. I think if you go by QB play for QB play, Matthew Stafford had a better game than Jared Goff. But the most important thing that you want from your quarterback is to not throw away the game. Don't give away the damn game. And and Jared Goff was able to go tit for tat with Matthew Stafford and give his team a winning chance. The Detroit Lions will beat the Los Angeles Rams 24 to 23. Matthew Stafford on the day, 25 of 36, 367 yards, two touchdowns, no interceptions. They didn't really get much from Kyron Williams. He had 13 carries for 61 yards, and they built their wins recently behind the play of him and the guy Puka Nakua, who was a receiver on this team, who had 9 receptions for 81 yards. That's crazy. The man had 181 yards catching off 9 receptions. That's wild. Puka Nakua, they're going to have to pay that man next year. And it's gonna be interesting to see they'll be able to keep him in Cup. We'll see about that because Cooper Cup was a no show in this game. If you look on the other side of the ball, Jared Goff for the Detroit Lions had a good game too. 22 of 27, 277 yards, 1 touchdowns, no interceptions. But see, they got more playmakers on Detroit. They got a two-headed running attack in Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery. Each of those guys scored a touchdown. Montgomery caught all 4 targets that he received. Gibbs caught all 4 targets that he received as well. And as I mentioned, each one of those guys had a touchdown. Sam Laporta only had 3 receptions, probably still dealing with that knee injury, but showed up to play and be there for his team. He caught a touchdown. And then Josh Reynolds, a former Rams player as well, had something to prove. Had 5 receptions for 80 yards. But the star of the game was Amon-Ra St. Brown, who just made big play after big play after big play after big play. 7 receptions for 110 yards, including the walk-away first down that he received to end the game, in which now the Lions can go into celebration formation. Like this was a great game. It really came down. It was like a game of inches, kind of. Like who was gonna make that first mistake? Unfortunately for the Rams, the Lions were just able to score one more touchdown than they did, and the Lions forced them to kick one more field goal than they did. And also for the Lions, luckily for them, they got Aiden Hutchinson, who was just a monster on the defensive side of the ball. Hutchinson got busy, had 4 tackles, 2 assisted tackles, 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss. That's what you want out of your star defensive player. We all worry about the Lions if you watch football. You worry about if Hutchinson is not able to get pressure on the quarterback, can you beat that Lions secondary? Well, we didn't get a chance to answer that question in this game because Aiden Hutchinson got pressure on the quarterback. He was wreaking havoc all day. And it's just certain players, when you have certain leaders on your team, it elevates your play when you see your leader going out there and getting the job done. Aiden Hutchinson is one of them on defense. And the Lions going to be tough to beat in the playoffs. Now, after the game, I love what Dan Campbell said, who I think is one of the best coaches in the league right now, just as far as leadership goes. He thanked the general manager for believing in the vision. And then he went and thanked Jared Goff. And his words to Jared Goff was, "You are enough for the Detroit Lions." And if you're a person that's experienced being with a team that traded you for another quarterback and that quarterback won the Super Bowl, did something you couldn't do, to finally get that closure, to go against the quarterback that they traded you for in your former team and to beat them in the playoffs, that got to be icing on the cake. Shout out to Jared Goff, man, and the Detroit Lions. This is going to be a great divisional round, next round in the NFL playoffs. Got a couple more games to talk about. Actually, one more game. 2 more games. Apologies. We had the Buffalo Bills defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-17. Now, in this game, you shouldn't be surprised. I didn't have the Steelers winning this game. It was a blessing that they got to the playoffs. I mean, they've been through three quarterbacks this year: and Kenny Pickett, Mitchell Trubisky, Mason Rudolph. Like you didn't expect this team to win. Now Rudolph came out of play surprisingly well. He was 22 or 39 for 229 yards, two touchdowns, one interception. But the Pittsburgh Steelers just got off to a slow start. I mean, Josh Allen comes out the gate, his two touchdown passes back to back to each one of his tight ends, and Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid. Like both tight ends scored. And then Josh Allen gets a 52-yard run. Rushing. This is your quarterback. Had a great game on the ground as well. I mean, he had 74 yards and one rushing touchdown. 52 yards on one play. Josh Allen also was 21 and 30 in the air. 203 yards, three touchdowns, no interceptions. As I mentioned, hit Kincaid with a touchdown, hit Knox with a touchdown, hit Khalil Shakir with a touchdown. The defense showed up as well, forced an interception and a fumble. Nobody felt like Pittsburgh really had a chance in this game. You really don't even have to prolong explaining this game. We knew that Pittsburgh, they came in, they were hurt, had guys going out during the game. Whether George Pickens, not George Pickens, whether Kenny Pickett was there as quarterback, I still don't see this team winning. I have no faith in no quarterback that they got right now for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Even though Mason Rudolph played pretty well. But this is the same team that started Mitchell Trubisky for a couple of games during the season. As I mentioned, it was a blessing for them to make it to the playoffs. Now I got to talk about Rob's goofball of the week during this NFL playoffs. Because, hello, y'all. During these playoffs, I never understood why the media would ask these dumbass questions to players and coaches after they immediately lose a game. Like, Mike Tomlin understands, probably from a self-reflective perspective, that we had no chance to win this game based on the personnel that we had on the field. But he's not going to say that. But Mike Tomlin is a revered head coach in the NFL. I want to take you to what the reporter asked Mike Tomlin after the game. Take a look at this, y'all.
Not having TJ Watt up there.
I didn't think about it, to be quite honest with you. We knew all week he wasn't playing, and so we prepared with that mindset. And so I didn't waste any time thinking about what wasn't at our disposal. We had too much at our disposal and too many decisions and considerations to be made to waste time like that.
How do you think Mason did after throwing that interception?
I thought he was solid. I thought he was competitive. I thought his confidence was unshakable. I thought he, displayed the things that he displayed really for the last month or so.
Anyone?
Mike, you have a year left on your contract.
I understood that. Like, if we're gonna talk, let's talk about the game. But I'm fresh off a loss. I'm trying to figure out maybe do I still want to do this? I've been doing this for 17 years for this organization. Do I still want to be here? And you want to talk to me about my coaching issues? Why don't you show me the same respect you would show to a Bill Belichick? Why don't you show me the same respect you would show to an Andy Reid? Because I am just revered as much as they are as a coach in this league. Let's talk about what Mike Tomlin has done for this league, for the Pittsburgh Steelers in the NFL. Since joining the Steelers in 2007, he's led his team to 11 playoff runs, 7 division titles, 3 AFC championship games, 2 Super Bowl appearances, and a Super Bowl title. Not to mention, he has the third longest streak with 17 seasons without a losing season as a head coach. And you're going to talk to me about contract issues? See, this is why everybody should not be media for these major sports companies. Like certain questions you should understand. I'm not gonna ask somebody immediately after they lose, do you think you're gonna play here next year? What response did you think you was gonna get? This is why certain people in the media, you have made Robs goofball of the week. Why don't you ask hard hitting questions instead of dumbass questions? Let's continue to go on with the playoff review. In the last game we saw on Monday night on Martin Luther King Jr. Day, we saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers defeat the Philadelphia Eagles 32-9. Now, I don't like to call myself Robs2Cents, but see, when you have your own show, when you run things on your own time, you got receipts. Take a listen to what I predicted. Without them being able to run the ball, you're putting a lot of pressure on Jalen Hurts and asking him to be a pocket pass. You're asking Jalen Hurts to win the game for you with his arms. That ain't Jalen Hurts' game. They need to be able to rush the ball. Now, he has some great playmakers over there. Dante Smith, Goldert, A.J. Brown, as I alluded to, but A.J. Brown is hurt. We don't even know if A.J. Brown is going to suit up on Monday to play Tampa Bay. Luckily, he gets an extra day of rest. But that's going to be a very tough team. Tampa right now, they're on a roll. They didn't rest any of their guys because they had to win that game in order to win the division. Right now, I think Tampa Bay has the possibility of upsetting the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's what I'm going with that game. Robs2Cents does it again. I got receipts. This is what I said. If you follow your boy and you bet on DraftKings or FanDuel or PointsBet or Caesars, MGM Grand, whatever you bet on, I hope I won you some money. Because I said the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I did say I thought it would be a close game. I thought it would end 17-14 based off a field goal. I did not see Tampa Bay coming out and giving the Philadelphia Eagles what my boy Jim Ross would call an old government ass whooping. Like, whooped them like a government mule. That was an old behind the woodshed over my knee. Stop being bad. What he said on Baby Kids, I whoop you when I wanna, when I wanna, when I wanna. Hey, that was one of them ass whoopers. Philadelphia Eagles had that hesitation cry when they got done with the game. Tampa Bay came in there and said, "Shut up, or I give your ass something else to cry about." That's the type of ass whooping that was. Jalen Hurts, didn't I say if you want to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles, you got to turn Jalen Hurts into a pocket passer. Make him be a traditional quarterback. Don't let him beat you with the tush push. Don't let him beat you with your legs. Don't let that run game get off. Make Jalen Hurts pass the ball. He was 25-35 on the day for 250 yards and one touchdown. But that was it. He did nothing. Devontae Smith, playmaker, as I mentioned, 8 receptions for 148 yards. I mentioned him. I knew what he can do. I knew Goldert would get a touchdown, which he had a touchdown on the day. I mentioned him. I'm Robs2Cents. I do this when it comes to sports. But I didn't see Baker Mayfield outplaying him to that level. Baker Mayfield was 22 or 36 on the day, 337 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. I didn't see Rachaad White having a game, and he had 18 carries, 72 yards. David Moore, Trey Palmer, and Chris Godwin. We had a Chris Godwin sighting. I ain't seen Chris Godwin score a touchdown since Tom Brady. Each of them had a touchdown. Defense held the Eagles team to 42 rushing yards and 0% on third downs, as they were 0-9 on third down conversions, not to mention they got to hurt 3 times on the day. This is what I said. Don't let the Eagles run the ball. Stop Hurts. I keep calling him Stromile Smith. I apologize. Stop DeAndre Smith. Force Hurts to beat you with his arm. Pause. That's what you have to do to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles. Not to mention the Eagles ain't look good all year. If you really want to be honest with yourself, even though they had a record of 10-1, they won based on the 50-50 balls and calls going their way. Whether it was Marquez Valdez-Scantling dropping the go-ahead touchdown, whether it was penalties being called by the refs, whether it was fumbles or interceptions at the last minute. And I understand they had injuries to their defense. But to give up 32 points to a struggling team in the AFC West, now granted, Tampa Bay was 4-1 in their last 5 games, playing for their playoff lives, playing for the very opportunity to get a chance to defeat the Philadelphia Eagles in the playoffs. But there's still a team that played in the weakest conference or weakest division in football in the NFC South. This is the same division that houses the Carolina Panthers. The reason why we Chicago Bears have the number 1 pick in the draft. This is the same division that houses the New Orleans Saints, who didn't know if they needed Derek Carr, Jameis Winston, and they both was Basura. This is the same division that has the Atlanta Falcons. Who? That division. And you lost to them. Philadelphia should be ashamed of themselves. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with Coach Nick Sirianni. I don't know what's going to happen with the coaching team under his tutelage. But I assume somebody about to get fired. It's sad to say. But somebody about to get fired with Philly. And we're going to talk about the games now, which I feel what's going to happen this weekend. Let's see if Robs2Cents can be 2 for 2. He said, forgot to mention. Oh, Cord, I know you used to get down on the Hooper side. We gonna talk. Hey, what's up, little bro, man? I appreciate you for tuning in, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in, man. If you got some comments for your boy Rob, make sure you comment. Make sure you're telling your friends to come watch the show, man. We talking sports tonight, baby. We got to talk about what's going to happen in this divisional round of the playoffs. Now that the teams have been set, we now know that Baltimore is going to be facing Houston now in the divisional round of the playoffs, or the second round, may have you. We see that the Green Bay Packers are going to be going against the 49ers. That might be a more interesting game than we think. Tampa Bay is going to be going against Detroit, the battle of the forgotten, and Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield. And then we're going to see Buffalo taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, a rematch for the ages. Let's talk about it. We won't dwell too long on it because, of course, now we hit the nitty gritty now, and we're going to actually have to see these teams play. I'd actually see people walk the walk like they talk the talk. We're going to see Baltimore Ravens going against the Houston Texans now. In Baltimore's case, Lamar Jackson has a lot to prove. He's 1-3, I believe, in the playoffs, or he hasn't lost. Yeah, he's 1-3 in the playoffs. He's lost 3 playoff games, only won 1. Lamar Jackson's going to be looking to redeem his good name, especially considering the fact he's most likely going to be the MVP of the season, making him a 2-time MVP winner. He's going to have to put some playoff wins behind that MVP in order to take his name to greatness, to be mentioned with the greats. It's going to be a tough task going against the Houston Texans. We just saw what this defense did to the Cleveland Browns. Now, I'm not saying that the Cleveland Browns have an offense like the Baltimore Ravens. They got some playmakers on that offense now. Got David Njoku. You got Amari Cooper. As I mentioned, Kareem Hunt, Jerome Ford. They got some guys on this play on that team that can do some things. But Joe Flacco is no Lamar Jackson. That's the reason they let Joe Flacco go. Lamar Jackson can do some amazing things on that field. And that defense is going to have to be ready for a guy that prolongs plays. To a normal quarterback, A lot of those penetrations that defense is getting, a lot of that penetration, that'll be sacks. But going up against somebody like Lamar Jackson, he's so elusive, he's so strong, he's so fast. He has the skill and the wherewithal to get away. And with the way he's been playing this year, he's not looking to just run out of the pocket. He's looking to extend the pocket. He's looking to manipulate. I mean, we saw one in a play against one team, he extended the play to 9 seconds. I think that was against the Arizona Cardinals. It was unheard of. Like he literally prolonged the play. Well, you know what they say about normal quarterbacks. You have at least 2 to 3 seconds to get the ball out when you pass it from the pocket in the NFL. He made this play extend to 9 seconds from the pocket. He ain't got the touchdown. That's how dangerous Lamar is. And he has playmakers of his own. He has Isaiah Likely. He has Zay Flowers. He has Odell Beckham Jr. He got some guys over there Bateman. He got I forgot the running back name, Justice Mitchell. He got some guys over there that make some things happen. Gus Edwards. Guys better watch out for this Baltimore Ravens team because it's looking like he's coming to make a point. But CJ Stroud, the young rookie, man, there's nothing to frown upon. This Baltimore Ravens versus Houston Texans game is going to be huge. I'm going to predict the Ravens to get it done just based off the year that Lamar Jackson is having. And he has something to prove after the Baltimore Ravens made him wait it out to get the payday that he felt he deserved. And how did he show him he deserved it? Well, he's probably about to be your MVP. And if he's able to get to the AFC Championship game, when you say that money was well worth it, I'm predicting the Ravens to beat the Houston Texans. I'm predicting the game to be 28-10, Baltimore Ravens, especially because that defense. Houston played Cleveland, and they have a great defense. But we're talking about the best defense in football right now, led by my boy Roquan Smith. Houston gonna have to watch out. We also gonna have Green Bay going against the San Francisco 49ers. As you guys know, Robs2Cents has picked the 49ers to win it all. Now I'm rooting for the Ravens just because I'm rooting for Lamar Jackson. But I just feel like the 49ers has too many playmakers. And granted, Jordan Love has showed up and shown me some things. As I mentioned, I think he threw 32 touchdowns on the year, only like 10, 11 interceptions. Jordan Love ain't he's not a guy to just look over. But I just think with the defense that the 49ers have, they're going to be able to get a lot of pressure on Jordan Love. Pressure that he didn't feel going against the Dallas Cowboys. Pause. They're going to be able to penetrate that defensive line, that offensive line, and they're going to be able to reach out and touch somebody. And that person they're going to touch is going to be Jordan Love. Excuse me. Remember, we got Nick Bosa on this defense, Chase Young on this defense, Fred Warren on this defense, Greenlaw, Armstead. We got guys that are able to beat that offensive line and get to the quarterback. Now, I do worry about if they're not able to get pressure on Jordan Love, what this secondary will do. Because he will be able to turn up on him with Romeo Dobbs, Christian Watson, Datavion Wicks. Like he got some Musgrave. He got some guys on his offense that can make some plays as well. But I think if you're trying to outscore San Francisco, not many teams are going to be able to do that, especially if Brock Purdy shows up and show why he was an MVP candidate for the second half of the season. Because he has playmakers as well. Deebo Samuels, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, Juwan Jennings. He has guys on his team that can get the job done. Not to mention the San Francisco 49ers is one that has some of the best yak receivers in the league right now. When Brandon Ayuk catch the ball, he's looking for yards after catch. Deebo Samuel, we know what he can do. You can get that man a 4-yard slant, and he'll give you an 80-yard touchdown. This is what happens when you have playmakers on your side of the ball. I just think the San Francisco 49ers will be too much for the Green Bay Packers. They had a great run, but it's time to send those cheesehead home. I'm going 49ers 35, Packers 21. I think the Packers will be able to put up some touchdowns against this 49er team, just not enough. Tampa Bay versus Detroit Lions is going to be a good game. I call this the game of the forgotten. I think Baker Mayfield and Jared Goff are going to duke it out. I think this is going to be a high scoring contest. Uh, Tampa Bay defenses, they've shown up, but I call the Detroit Lions, and I hate to say it this way, the Dollar Tree version of San Francisco. Like Jameer Gibbs and David Montgomery are good, but they're just not as great as Christian McCaffrey. Reynolds, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta are good, but just not as good as Debo Samuels, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle. But they are some great playmakers. So I hate to say Dollar Tree version. Maybe I'll just say the underwhelmed version of the 49ers. And Golf has proven this year that he can get the job done. He's took this team to win the division in the NFC North. They won their first playoff game as a franchise since 1992. Golf is looking like he's trying to get his team to the NFC Championship game. But I've said it once and I've said it again. I just think it's Baker's time. And I'm going to go with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to beat the Detroit Lions. I just think their defense is starting to show a little bit of championship grit. Most of these guys, well, I don't want to say most, but a couple of these guys on that defensive end of the ball was there part of that championship team in 2021 when Tom Brady won. I just think that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are playing the right football at the right time. And that offensive line came out protected Baker Mayfield. As I mentioned before, if Aiden Hutchinson doesn't get pressure on the quarterback, I don't know how good this Detroit Lions defense can really be. So I'm going to go for Tampa Bay to beat Detroit. I think it's going to be another close game. I'm going to say 27-24. And in the last game, we got Buffalo versus Kansas City. Now, this has to be an anticipated matchup because Buffalo, remember that game in 2022 in that divisional round playoff game where the Chiefs and the Bills were scored 3 touchdowns in under 2 minutes? Pat Mahomes was forced overtime. With the game time field goal, he drove the ball 44 yards in 13 seconds. That shit is unheard of. And then he gets the ball first in overtime, and he goes down and score with Travis Kelsey. It was ignorant. It was ignorant. Oh my goodness. That's the game we get to see again. Now, granted, this ain't the same Bills team. This ain't the same Chiefs team. That Chiefs team had Tyreek Hill, but this Chiefs team does have Rasheed Rice. And you still have Diggs and you still have Gabe Davis for the Buffalo Bills. But this team has kind of reinvented how they play because the Buffalo Bills now have a conscious effort to rush the ball, whether it be with James Cook or whether it be with uh, 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 Josh Allen. This is going to be a great game. Can Josh Allen finally get over the hump? He's 0-2 against Patrick Mahomes in playoff games. Now he has the advantage. The game is in Buffalo. As I mentioned, this is going to be a first for the Kansas City Chiefs. They have not had to play a road playoff game since Pat Mahomes has been the starter of their franchise. I'm excited to see Pat Mahomes step up to the test because if Pat Mahomes can win the Super Bowl this year with this Chiefs team, he's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. Like he's already next up as the GOAT because to me, this dude doesn't know how it feels to not play for a championship. Like every game, he's at least played for the AFC Championship. That's ridiculous. He doesn't know how it feels to play on the road in a playoff game because that's how good his teams work. And even without Tyreek Hill, he went on to win a ring last year. Even without Tyreek Hill, he's at least taking his team back to the divisional round of the playoffs. This is showing the greatness of Pat Mahomes. As I mentioned, these receivers have dropped 44 passes this year, the most dropped passes by any receiver core in the NFL. If Pat Mahomes is able to take this team to the NFL Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, and he manages to pull off being Super Bowl MVP, that's the GOAT. That's the GOAT. We're going to be talking about what, 3 championships in 5 years? That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself. He has to get past the Buffalo Bills first. And it's going to be a tough task because the Bills' defense is starting to play again. And as I mentioned, they are making a conscious effort to run the ball. It's going to be a great game. I'm going to predict the Chiefs to win this game. I don't think the Bills have enough. I got the Chiefs winning this game 17-16. Chiefs over the Bills. Let's talk a little basketball, ladies and gentlemen. There's been some problems in paradise with the Golden State Warriors. Some things I don't like. As you guys know, Golden State is my team. I've been rocking with Golden State for a long time now. But there's been some problems. Right now, they're 12th in the Western Conference. Record of 18-22. 3-7 in their last 10 games. And Steph Curry has to take a lot of the blame. He's been shooting horrible in these last games. I mean, listen to some of these numbers from the 3-point line. The greatest shooter of all time, and there's no debating that. But listen to some of these numbers. Against Denver, Steph was 3-13 from the 3-point line. Against Miami, he was 2-8 from the 3-point line. Against Toronto, he was 0-9 from the 3-point line. I remember looking at that. I betted that game. I think I had Steph for 30 and 4 threes. And I remember looking at that game, and it was like the second quarter, and I'm like, this can't be right. Steph Curry only got 1 point. I literally went to NBA.com from my phone to go verify if what Google was showing me was accurate. And then remember last night, January 15th, MLK Day, against the Memphis Grizzlies, he was 3-9 from distance. Remember, this was the same Memphis Grizzlies team that didn't have Desmond Bane, that does not have John Moran, who's gone for the rest of the season, who did not have Marcus Smart, who did not have Derrick Rose. Not only did he shoot poorly against the Memphis Grizzlies, the Golden State Warriors lost to that team. You lost to the Memphis Grizzlies without John Morant, Desmond Bane, Marcus Smart, Derrick Rose. You let somebody named Gigi kill you. Now, don't get me wrong. I love seeing Gigi have a good game. And at the end of the game, he got a chance to talk with the inside NBA crew. And he got a chance to hear Shaq tell him congratulations. And his reaction made me smile. It was a wholesome reaction. It's the reaction you would expect anybody to have when you hear a legend like Shaq, somebody who dominated the game, was the most dominant player to ever play in the NBA, tell you, good game, kid. But as a Warrior fan, as a Steph Curry fan, y'all got to get that shit together. Because it's getting bad. It's getting ugly. You play no defense. You gave up 132 points to the Mavericks. You gave up 130 points to the Nuggets. You gave up 141 points to the Pelicans. And then you lose to the Grizzlies. Where's the defense at? Where's the accountability at? Where's the grit at? Now, I heard Steph Curry have accountability, but listen to the difference between Steph Curry and Klay Thompson on getting booed in their own arena when they played the New Orleans Pelicans. Listen to this.
Clay, you guys have been booed each of the last 2 home games. Obviously, you're not used to that. How do you handle that?
Are you supposed to lose sleep over it?
This is the second straight game that you guys were booed here. How does that make you feel when you hear that?
I don't even know what to say about it because I don't want to be prisoners of the moment and understand, we're obviously struggling. There's nothing to really cheer about, so the opposite of cheering is booing. Might as well. I don't take it any certain type of way. Honestly, I'm booing myself, booing our team in my head because of the way we're playing. So, it is what it is. Fans are going to react the way that they want. It's our job to, give them something to cheer about. And we have not done that.
Do you see the difference in the reaction? Do you see Klay Thompson talking about, well, what am I supposed to do? Lose sleep over this? I've been asking for Klay's job. Like, don't get me wrong. I appreciate everything Klay has done for the Golden State Warriors, and he will go down as one of the best shooters in NBA history, and that backcourt will go down as the best shooting backcourt in NBA history. But as you know, with sports, it's not about what you've done. It's about what are you doing. What have you done for me lately? Klay Thompson ain't been the same since that ACL injury. Not only can he not defend players at a high level that he used to be. Remember, Klay Thompson used to be a great two-way player. He was the guy that you would put on the best player on an opposing team, a best wing player, best forward. Klay would be the guy to guard him. Klay can't stick defense anymore. And worse than that, he can't shoot anymore. When Klay has a good game from the field or he scores a lot of points now, it's a shock. You're like, oh, shit, Klay went for 30. I forgot he could do that. He's been bad. Basura this year. I've had conversations with friends. I've had conversations with other guys that are doing this in the sports media world. I personally think Steve Kerr should have set Klay down. Bench him. Have him come off the bench with Chris Paul. Start a guy like James Moody. Or Moses Moody, I'm sorry. Start Moody. A guy who's been showing you he's not as great as Klay was. I'm not saying that. But his production now has been better than the production Klay has shown. He's been wasting time with Wiggins. He's finally giving Kuminga a chance. And then you got the situation of the Draymond distractions. Draymond has been suspended like 3-4 times just in this young season. They ain't even played 40 games yet. Huge distraction. Steve Kerr, when is enough going to be enough? When are you going to stop these woes for the Golden State Warriors? Because right now, their old general manager, Bob Myers, he's looking like a very smart man for jumping off the ship before it crashed. Golden State Warriors, y'all got to get it together, man. Still got some time left. The trade deadline isn't until February 8th. You might be wanting to look to make some moves to bring some life and revigorate this team. Because right now, you're not looking good. But I'm going to tell you a team that's looking good. Are the Timberwolves for real? Now, I didn't want to trust it when we're talking about 10, 20 games into the season. But right now, they got a record of 28-11. That's 39 games if I'm counting correctly. We're almost halfway into the season, and the Timberwolves are number one in the Western Conference, which has proven to probably be the toughest conference this year. Not to mention the defensive intensity that this team has been showing. They're ranked number one in opponents' points per game. Number one. They're keeping opponents at 107.3 points per game. As we know, this game has been built off offense in today's NBA, and they've been able to hold teams under 108 points. And this has been a coming out party for Anthony Edwards, who has looked better and better and better every year since his 2019 debut. Right now, he's averaging 26 points per game, 5.4 rebounds per game, 4.9 assists per game. He's shooting from the field and distance, goes up every year, and you can tell he's stepping up to lead his team, not just by his play, but being a vocal leader in that locker room. Now, there's been a lot of comparisons to Anthony Edwards being the new Michael Jordan, and yes, you can see some similarities. I love the wrist, the armband on the left arm, his athleticism, the way he's been hitting the fadeaway jumper, the way he's able to get to the rim and finish either above the rim or under the rim. He shoots probably a better three-point ball than Michael Jordan. As I mentioned, his shooting is going up every year. I think right now he's shooting like 39% from three-point land, which is his best shooting percentage ever. He's been getting more out of Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert than we've ever seen. Got these guys playing like they feel like they have a chance to actually do something in the playoffs. He's had the calm leadership of a veteran like Mike Conley on his team. And these guys have been going crazy. Nazir, they got some guys on this team that have been stepping up all year. It's time for people to really start looking at Minnesota. Let's look at what they've been doing. They're 16-2 at home, 12-9 on the road. So not only are they a decent road team, that you definitely don't want to see Minnesota in Minnesota. 5-1 in their division, and currently 6-4 out of their last 10 games on a 2-game winning streak. Minnesota has been open this year, y'all. And I got to give love to them. I think the Timberwolves are for real. And I can't wait to see this team in the playoffs. I want to see what Anthony Edwards is made of. I told everybody he was going to be playing with a different level of confidence after when he played for the represented the U.S. in the FIBA games. We've seen players go play for these tournaments, whether it's been in the Olympics or whether it's been for FIBA, and we've seen them be surrounded by other alpha males on their team, and come back with a newfound confidence. Look at 2008, after guys played with Kobe Bryant. You see LeBron James become a champion, Chris Bosh become a champion. See Dwight Howard in his evolution becoming the defensive player of the year, leading his Magic team to the finals, eventually becoming the champion with LeBron James and that's Los Angeles Lakers team. Even though Chris Paul didn't become a champion, he's regarded as the point guard, and he's led the teams like the Phoenix Suns at least to the NBA Finals. Had a chance to do it against the Golden State Warriors when he played with Houston, but unfortunately got an injury in Game 6, didn't play in Game 7, and we know the rest. We see guys like D. Wade gain that knowledge and leadership quality from Kobe to have the wherewithal to tell somebody like LeBron James, you're the man on this team. We brought you here to follow your lead. If you don't play like LeBron, we don't win championships. Even though Melo didn't win championship, he was regarded as one of the best Olympic players ever, and has made a killing on the NBA. as far as financially. We saw the effect that guys had after playing with Mike. Charles Barkley gets an MVP. I think, matter of fact, I think he got the MVP. No, he got his MVP the following year, I believe, or before. I know he's MVP in '92. But we see the impact it had on people like Stockton, Malone. Like, that's what happens when you play with alpha males. You learn how to become an alpha. Anthony Edwards has definitely made that step in the right direction. And I'm excited to see the future for this kid. And maybe one day, especially we understand Steph Curry's gonna be retiring soon. LeBron James is eventually gonna retire. He's gonna be probably the next face of the NBA. Keep your eyes on Anthony Edwards, man. Almost done with our show, man. We got to talk about the NBA trade deadline. As I mentioned, it's going to be coming up on February 8th. We got some guys like Pascal Siakam, DeJounte Murray, Zach LaVine, Kyle Kuzma, Alex Caruso, Bogdan Bogdanovic, Bojan Bogdanovic, Kevin Herter. We got some guys on that list, man. Uh, some people think that possibly Donovan Mitchell might be on the move as well. We know as far as when it comes to Toronto, they're kind of in reset mode, and they're looking at Scotty Barnes as the guy and want to clear up spacing for him. So they're going to be probably looking to get off Pascal Siakam, who becomes a free agent this year. You got to think about DeJounte Murray. It hasn't really gelled well with Trey Young. I know right now he's on a 4-year, $114 million extension that he signed this past summer. Has a player option in 2027. Excuse me, but it's looking like the Atlanta Hawks is gonna continue to ride the Trey Young train out, and Dejounte Murray might be on the move. It's rumored that he might be going back to San Antonio. Coach Greg Popovich has already come out and said that he would love to have Dejounte Murray back at that organization. And Dejounte Murray really flourished when he was the primary ball handler for his said team. But as we know right now, Trey Young primarily handles the rock. So it might be a good move for both parties, for both the Atlanta Hawks and DeJounte Murray, for him to go to a different team. Zach LaVine, as we know, has also been a name in discussion. Back in 2022, signed a 5-year, fully guaranteed contract worth $215 million. Uh, DeMar DeRozan becomes a free agent after this season. We don't know which route that the Bulls organization is going to be going in. We see Zach LaVine at one point in time talk like he wanted out of Chicago, went down with an injury, and Chicago started to play well without Zach LaVine. Actually put ourselves back in playoff contention, play-in contention, as we're sitting currently in ninth place in the NBA Eastern Conference. And we've seen the elevation and evolution of Kobe White as he's been, making a name for himself and becoming a young potential all-star in the Eastern Conference. And then you look at a guy like Kyle Kuzma, who recently just signed a 4-year, $9 million contract with the Wizards. But the Wizards might just go into full rebuild mode, probably try to look to get him and Jordan Poole away from this organization and go into a different route. So there's some interesting names that we're seeing possibly come up in these trade talks. As I mentioned, the trade deadline is February 8th, which is a week before the NBA All-Star game. And a couple teams like the Golden State Warriors, a couple teams like the Los Angeles Lakers, possibly the Dallas Mavericks, possibly the Atlanta Hawks, possibly the San Antonio Spurs, possibly the New Orleans Pelicans, because you don't know what route they're going to be going. There's going to be some teams that's looking to, add a piece or two to help in their quest for a championship. And I think this might be one of the bigger trade deadlines we've seen in a long, long time. Man, I got to give a shame on you to the Chicago Bulls fans. Now, as you guys know, on the 12th, we celebrated the Ring of Honor for that 96 Bull team that won 72-10 and eventually won the NBA championship. And during the Ring of Honor celebration, Of course, they were going to call Jerry Krause, who was the general manager at that time for the Chicago Bulls. And, you know, if you haven't seen The Last Dance, then you won't understand why this reaction happened to Jerry Krause's widow. Remember, Jerry Krause has passed away, and his wife was there to take the award, accept the award on his behalf, or accept the honor on his behalf. And this is what happened during the Chicago Bulls Ring of Honor. Take a look.
Six-time NBA champion, two-time NBA Executive of the Year, represented by his wife Thelma, Basketball Hall of Famer and former Bulls general manager Jerry Krause.
That's tough to see, man. That's tough to see. You gotta have respect for your elders first off. And second of all, she ain't do it. Now I get the gripe that people have with Jerry Krause. I get the fact that a lot of people feel like he ruined the Bulls franchise, the dynasty. He feel like he ruined it with his gripe, with whatever gripe he had with Phil Jackson, and coming out and saying there's absolutely no way, even if the Bulls go 82-0, that he will resign Phil Jackson to an extension and that he's gonna be fired no matter what. Come the end of the 1998 season, which was the last time we've seen the Bulls franchise hold up a championship ring or raise a championship banner. We understand that he came out and said a foolish thing, talking about players and coaches don't win championships, front offices do. And later tried to go on to say that it's a collaboration between the organization and players and coaches to the success of winning the championship. We understand that Michael Jordan didn't paint a very good picture of him in The Last Dance, and the beef that Michael Jordan had with Jerry Krause as far as contract situations and trading people and not bringing the right people in or who he felt should be brought in, and you know the sly remarks that Michael Jordan would say out the side of his mouth towards Jerry Krause in regards to his weight or height. We understand that, but you also got to look at the fact that Jerry Krause put that dynasty together, and that he made specific moves like trading Charles Oakley, even though Michael Jordan was against it. But bringing in Bill Cartwright was one of the best things that happened to the Chicago Bulls. By bringing in a guy like Scottie Pippen, now regardless of what issues Scottie had with Jerry Cross or Jerry Reinsdorf in regards to his contract, he was one of the best moves that happened to Chicago when he came and became Jordan's 1B. Bringing in guys like Horace Grant and then realizing we got to try to recreate that magic, and then bringing in a guy like Dennis Rodman, the controversial Dennis Rodman at that time, who was out in the media either wrestling or marrying himself. You guys don't understand. It's hard to make those tough decisions sometimes. And when you're a leader, you're not going to make everybody happy. But the same way you're going to give him shit about what he didn't do right, you can't do nothing but give him love for what he did do right. The guy made the dynasty. He is a big contributor to the Bulls winning those 6 rings. Keeping Michael Jordan. Bringing in Scottie Pippen. Bringing in a Horace Grant. Bringing in a Tony Kukoc, who he convinced Tony Kukoc to sign out of his deal over there in Croatia. Bringing in a Dennis Rodman, a Luke Longley, a Bill Cartwright, a Ron Harper, who was an adversary when he played for Cleveland against Jordan. You got to give Jerry Krause some love. And even if you don't want to, based off the knowledge in The Last Dance, don't boo his wife. She didn't do it. That was just a huge, and you can hear the fans try to, drown out the few boos that happen and give this woman a cheer. But You can tell that hurt her, man. Like seeing the look on that woman's face hurt me. It made me embarrassed to be a Chicago Bulls fan. You gotta let that hate go. We'll never get anything good for us as long as we hold on to this hate. And I felt really bad for Mrs. Krause. Now, hopefully, shame on her PR team. Shame on the PR team for the Bulls for not thinking ahead that this could possibly happen and that we should prepare this woman that she might get booed based off actions that her husband did. Got to be better, everybody across the board. And also, before we end, we bid. Got to give love to my boy too before I end. I'm glad I saw that. Shout out to my boy Ice Cube, man. As you guys know, I got a chance to interview Ice Cube with my boy Mike Hughes, who's the co-host on Welcome to Mars, the Mike and Rob show. And he was the one that got us the interview, man. So shout out to my boy Mike Hughes for real. Got a chance to interview the legend, to interview the mogul named Ice Cube, Mr. O'Shea Jackson. And during the interview, we talked about how he felt that the NBA, was trying to sabotage him, was trying to come at the thing that he was doing when his league didn't even bother the NBA. He understood that the NBA is here, and he got his own thing over here. He's not trying to compete over there. He's over here. And that the NBA was trying to do everything to kind of like to stop him. Whether it was taking sponsors or suing him for using their players and different things like that. So to see the NBA finally recognize my man's and give him and basically name an award, a Hall of Fame award after him called the Ice Cube Impact Award. And what this award does is award anybody who's making huge contributions in their community and changing the lives of kids through the game of basketball. That's huge for the NBA to acknowledge what Ice Cube has done. Giving retired players or players that's no longer in the league a second chance at their 15 minutes of fame, a second chance to make an income, excuse me, doing the thing that they love to do, which is playing the game of basketball and the contributions that he's made through his different foundations and different groups that he gives back to the community through the game of basketball and providing jobs for people, whether it's through media or through the big three league. Like Ice Cube has done a lot for a lot of people, and I'm glad that the NBA is finally showing him love. He's an icon. He's a legend. I mean, my kids are going to be quoting Friday and Friday after next and next Friday. Like my kids are going to be watching the Big Three League. I have nephews that love the Big Three League that I got a chance to see while they were there at the United Center while I was there with my press badge being one of the media partners for the Big Three. Like this was huge. And I'm so happy for Ice Cube. It's well deserved. I can't wait till they award the first player of this prestigious award. And I can't wait to talk to Cube again in the future about this award and to get his perspective and his take on winning this prestigious honor, on getting this prestigious honor, and hopefully seeing him get to crown the first winner of this award. And also, as we end, we say goodbye to the end of an era. We had two legendary coaches retire within this month. We bid farewell to Bill Belichick and Nick Saban, probably the two most winningest coaches in NFL and NCAA history. Let's talk about Nick Saban first. Nick Saban was the head coach for the University of the Alabama Crimson Tide. Nick Saban had an overall record of 292 to 71 losses to one draw. He's a 5-time SEC Coach of the Year. He was 19-12 in bowl games, had a record of 9-5 in college football playoffs, and has won 7 national championships. That's 1 with LSU when he was the head coach of the Tigers, and 6 with the Alabama Crimson Roll Tide. Alabama, this is going to be a tough one for you because even I was a fan of Coach Nick Saban. And it's just certain guys you didn't bet against in certain sports. And if I was ever betting in college football and Alabama was in the playoffs, I was not betting against Coach Nick Saban. And even though he's had a reputation of being approved, had a reputation of being a controversial head coach in college and professional sports in general, even though college sports not considered professional, Nick Saban was one of them that you were going to garnish your respect, and he was going to get the job done when it came to being a coach in this league. We bid Nick Saban a farewell. Job well done, sir. He's going to be okay. According to my boy Maurice Claret over there on It Is What It Is podcast, he owns a bunch of Mercedes-Benz dealerships. Nick Saban is going to be just fine. He made enough money as a head coach for the Crimson Roll Tide. But we also bid a farewell to Bill Belichick as well. And Bill Belichick is the winningest coach in NFL history. We talking about a guy who got 6 Super Bowl titles as a head coach, 2 as a defensive coordinator with the New York Giants when they were coached by Coach Bill Parcells, 3 times AP Coach of the Year, 12 Super Bowl appearances, 9 as a head coach for the New England Patriots, has a career record of 333 wins and 178 losses, and 31 wins in the playoffs as a head coach, which is the most wins by any head coach in the NFL. Bill Belichick is him. And I don't care what you say about the Deflate Gate, about the Spy Gate, about him forcing Tom Brady out, about him not being able to win when Tom Brady left. You can't deny that Bill Belichick had his team disciplined and ready to play every Sunday. And that you don't get that many wins without being a great head coach. He kept his defenses always looking good. And yes, he had some help from Tom Brady and Josh McDaniels. True indeed. But at the end of the day, you cannot deny with a record like Bill Belichick's that he goes down as one of the greatest coaches, not just in NFL history, but one of the greatest coaches ever in sports history, ever. We're talking Phil Jackson. We're talking Greg Popovich. We're talking Roger Staubach. We're talking Greg Arbach. I mean, you cannot deny what Bill Belichick has done. And ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of my show. We've had a great time having me. You know, I like to end every show with a video of the week. And I've been showing love to my women, man. You know what I'm saying? They've been going down. We've been seeing what Caitlin Clark has done with NCAA women's basketball, the attention she's brought. And Coach Don Staley say, don't forget though, University of South Carolina still got the #1 seed. We undefeated so far in this young season. And boy, they got a woman over there that's athletic as hell. Ashlyn Watkins dunked the ball during a game versus Kentucky, a game that the South Carolina Gamecocks, that's their name. Don't pause me on that. That's their name. That they won by 62 points. The final score being 98-36. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, she dunked the ball, and I ain't talking about no regular girl dunk. I'm talking about okay. If you don't believe me, let's watch the video of the week.
Mimi Jenkins for Kentucky here, going up against Ashlyn Watkins. Watkins just stole it away. Falling it down! Ashlyn Watkins Last year as a freshman, she became the first to dunk in South Carolina history, and here she does it again. Show me this dunk again.
You could tell the crowd, everybody's standing up. I mean, with authority, too. Never a doubt. Talking to strength coach Molly, she told me Watkins had been jumping almost 11 feet, so.
I can't even dream of that. How about in the first quarter on a Monday night? A little dunk action.
Ashlyn Watkins, everybody in Columbia, South Carolina stood up knowing she was going to deliver with authority. The bench loving it.
That was beautiful. Did you see the energy that the building had? Now, I know a lot of people talking about, oh, she got the steal and the old girl was trotting back on defense. Sometimes you trot back on defense when it ain't shit you can do to stop what's about to happen. And I think everybody knew it. You saw the crowd stand up. You saw the bench stand up. You even saw young ladies on the Kentucky sideline looking as like, oh, is she about to do what I think she about to do? And yes, am I saying she dunked the ball like LeBron James? No, she did not. But for a young woman to dunk the ball like that, she dunked it with authority. It wasn't like she just barely got the ball up there. She knew what she wanted to do, and she proceeded to go do that. And you heard the rim breakaway. I mean, she even grabbed the rim action. I mean, that's just to let you know that the game of basketball is evolving for these young ladies, man. These women, they've already been foundationally sound. Like, you take a lot of women players and put them in the system in the NBA, they will flourish because these women understand foundation. They understand basic basketball because not everybody's blessed with the ability to jump 48 fucking feet in the air. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't happen. So, you got to give credit when credit is due, man. Shout out to Ashlyn Watkins, as you guys heard. That wasn't the first time she's dunked the ball. She's became the first young woman in South Carolina history to dunk for a franchise. And I'm pretty sure she got WNBA scouts on her. My boy Mike is probably going to be interviewing her when he bring back his Skytown baby. Like it's a lot of motion going on with the women in basketball, with women in sports in general, man. So shout out to the young ladies out there, especially my black young ladies. We love to see the black girl magic, man. And that's the end of the show, y'all. As I mentioned, I know this is the day after Martin Luther King Jr. Day, but I hope what you all take from that day is, you know, similar to what people talk about with Easter and Christmas. Remember the reason for the season, man. Don't just look at Martin Luther King Jr. Day as a day off from work, which we all love, but you also got to look at it as a way to make change. Like this one man, and even though it was a movement, it started with him, in his movement. You know what I'm saying? And what he was doing, and you have to make those changes. You have to say it starts with me. You know what I'm saying? I know Malcolm might be doing this over here, and Louis Farrakhan might be doing that over there, but I'm gonna make my move and my change to make it better for people, and that's why we able to celebrate young women dunking the ball. It wasn't even just about black or white. It was about anybody who felt like they were, a minority. A word that I hate to use. I hate the fucking word minority so bad. But for anybody who feel like they were less than, at one point in time, women couldn't even vote. Now we see women being vice presidents and running for presidents and playing professional sports and doing the job better than a lot of some of these dudes out here, man. Let's just keep it real. So we thank the creator for people like Martin Luther King Jr., for Malcolm X, and all those who made tremendous strides and contributions for the fight of equality. And no, I don't think we've gotten to that mountaintop yet that Martin Luther King was speaking, Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was speaking about, but I think we're getting there, y'all. There's a lot of things that have changed for the better, but we got to remember we the only ones holding ourselves back. So once we realize that and we come together as a race of people, and realize it ain't a black and white thing or a man and woman thing, it's a human thing. And we realize that we all will one day be judged the same way, I think we'll all be fine. I hope you guys take that message and do what you will with it, but do it in the right way. Love you guys, man. Hope you guys continue to have a productive week. Hey, make sure you tune in next week as we'll be talking about what happened in the playoffs this upcoming weekend. Make sure you check out Welcome to Mars with me and my boy Mike, the Mike and Rob Show, as we break down everything NBA and we dive into the NBA a little deeper. And we also talk about what might be happening with the Bears. You know, Mike always got a bunch of damn theories that he like to throw out there. Hey, you never know. Sometimes you got to keep throwing darts at that board until one of them joints stick. Hey, got nothing but love for y'all, baby. And you already know the slogan, baby. We gone. There's a bigger fight going on. There's a much bigger agenda than the streets. And I know sometimes it's hard to see that far in front of us. But we have to look past the illusions, look past the delusions of grandeur, and look at the bigger picture. We need to become better versions of ourselves each and every day. Fight for what you believe in. Because if you stand for nothing, you'll fall for anything. We just getting started, baby. You guys know the slogan now. Hope you all have a great evening. And we gone.